Number one is a concern about routines. Now, we're going to tie all these together. We got seven of them in just a moment. But what we're talking about is one day in the life of an aspie or a person who has autism. One day in my life. And the first thing I noticed when I got up Saturday morning is we had a snowfall. And that caused a couple problems with me. I guess it causes problems with everybody, but the autistic side of me caused a little bit of a problem because number one, things were out of order, like snow all over the driveway. I got to do something about that. Before the sun came up, before anybody in my neighborhood was up and about, I was outside with my snow shovel shoveling the snow. Now, I have a snowblower, but it's kind of loud and you don't want to use it, at 5 in the morning when other people are sleeping. So Saturday morning, I got out my shovel and I just shoveled snow. It took me probably an hour, but number two is we have a problem now with schedule because it snowed. And part of my schedule is I like to run for 3 miles or walk 3 miles every single day. Don't like to miss a single day. And I may miss one day a month because of things like snow, or schedule, something happens, you're in the hospital. So I had to count shoveling snow as my run. I had to burn up some calories somehow, and that's the way that I did it. So I got to say that if somebody were to evaluate me for autism, and they did a few years ago, but if it were based solely on orderliness, I would probably not pass the test because I'm not the most orderly, organized guy on the planet. In fact, when I went in for my, what would you call this, the evaluation, at first, I told the therapist, no, I'm not that orderly. I don't have routines. I told her that. I don't have routines. Then I went home and thought about it, and I started thinking of all the things that I do routinely. And if you do things routinely, that's a routine. Okay, and then I had all these things that I did routinely. I sent her an email. I said, I stopped and thought about this. I think I gave you the wrong answer. So I have a problem with routines if they are disturbed. And I'm not hyper routinic. Okay, I just made that term up, but you know what I mean. I can be a little bit out of sync with my routines. I don't have to do the same thing at the same time every day, but I can tell you this. At midnight, every single midnight, I have one or two things to eat. Every day, same thing. 3 o'clock, I have the same, 3 in the morning, I have the same thing to eat every day. I have cherries and sugar-free jello. 6 o'clock, same thing every day. Pomegranate and blackberries. 9 o'clock, same thing every single day. Grapes. And, I forgot, chocolate. I mean real chocolate, not the fake chocolate like milk chocolate, but real chocolate because it's good for you. 12 noon, have the same thing every single day. That's my meat time. I have meat and bread. Usually it's fish. I think it's Saturday that I have sausage, and another day, Monday it is that I have hamburger. So, I have these routines. I have things in order. But if you look at my bedroom, you look at my office behind me, which you can't see because it's covered by green screen, but you will notice that things are out of order. I'm not terribly orderly, but I do like my routines. And nothing will screw up your routine like a snowfall. So number one is we had a problem with both orderliness and routines. And then number two, routines. My schedule was messed up because of the snow. I couldn't go out and run. So what's happening here is I'm seeing what life is like in the day of a person with autism by that day being screwed up. And when you can't do things that you normally do, it becomes more and more obvious that you really want to do these things. But a third thing that I think is really important is social anxiety. Now, we had a guy, a former pastor, who passed away, and his funeral was on Saturday. And I was debating back and forth if I wanted to go to the funeral because I don't want to go. I don't want to be around people. But you want to pay respect, and you want to at least know that friends and family that you care about them as well as the one who has passed away. But what kicks in when you go to any place there's a group of people? Well, social anxiety. I like to tell people, and I have in the past, that as I was growing up and forced to go to government schools, it was like being thrown in a swimming pool or thrown in a river and you can't swim. And you're there all day long. And then finally they pull you out at the end of the day and send you home. And nobody even notices that you were having a struggle. Well, it's kind of the same thing when you go to any group of people, including a funeral, which happened to be in a church. So there's some ways that you have to deal with that. And one of the problems that most people have with autism is eye contact. I'm learning to get over it. Well, I'm in my 70s now, and I'm pretty much to the point where I can make eye contact with people and just deal with the I was going to say inconvenience, but it's really more uncomfortable. I don't even like looking at a photograph of someone in the eyes or a portrait, even if it's me. Look in the mirror. I don't like to look at myself in the eye. I don't know what that is, but I've learned to overcome that. But still, the discomfort will always be there. And one of the ways I learned to deal with that, particularly, maybe if I'm in a restaurant somewhere, I have this bad habit of staring at people and looking around and examining the surroundings as if I'm watching a movie. One way I deal with that is I just close my eyes. And I've noticed something. I was sitting there in the funeral with my eyes closed, avoiding eye contact, but I noticed something else, and that is when my eyes were closed, I was able to focus on what the preachers, I think there were 3 of them in a row, were actually saying. And that's number 5, by the way, is focus, attention. Very difficult for some people. Some aspies are just dead on. They can, you send them to school and they just pay attention. They get straight A's. They're geniuses. I'm not one of those people. I just can't pay attention that long. But I found that if I sit there and close my eyes, and that removes all the visual distractions. What visual distractions? Well, anything and everything. Doesn't even have to be moving if it's just there. But if I close my eyes, I can focus so much better on what's being heard audially. So I think that's probably true of just about everybody. You ever watch a singer? They like to close their eyes when they sing, so they kind of focus on the message. I always thought that was kind of corny. But that's what they do. They get into it, and that's kind of human nature. But I think it's a little bit elevated with people with autism. So I found it easy just to sit there and close my eyes. Plus, people in front of you keep turning around and looking and trying to see who's behind them and who's there and who's not there. And I don't want to look at those people, so I just keep my eyes closed. Then they know I'm not staring at them. That's another trick I've learned. So number 5 was trying to focus attention. Or I should say, maybe a challenge that someone with autism has. And again, I know people with autism, they can sit in a classroom and zero in, laser-like focus, never be bothered, but that was never my skill. In fact, I'm just the opposite end of this spectrum. I just can't pay attention. Number 6 is what I would call, or what therapists call flat affect. When you go into a crowd of people, we're back at the funeral, and I don't know what people are thinking. I know what a happy face is. I know what a sad face is. I'm not that far gone, but I don't have those expressions myself. My therapist noticed when she wrote out the summary. She said one thing was this guy has flat effect. And I didn't realize it, but she was trying to introduce different stimuli. When we were having our encounter, our conversation, and she did it in such a way that I wouldn't notice, so she could try to pick up on different expressions, and she couldn't do it. I wouldn't get happy. I wouldn't respond the way that normal people do. It just flat effect, and that is apparent all day long. Sometimes I have to break out of it intentionally. That is kind of hard to do, but again, as I get older, I'm finding it easier to actually speak to people without being fearful, without being intimidated by their presence. Yeah, I can actually do that now. Not really good at it, but I can do it. Number 7 is I just wanted to go home, because I'm out of the ordinary. I like routines, I like things to be ordinary, and I think that's true of all people with autism. But I think there's, most people, you don't have to be autistic to want to go home, obviously, but I think with people, those of us who are autistic, we need that familiar environment. And anything outside of that little bubble, we want to get back in the bubble. And what I've done throughout my life is my bubble goes with me wherever I go. I've got this bubble. I close myself off in my thoughts. And as I get older again, it's becoming less extreme. But particularly as a kid, I was inside this mental, psychological bubble, and I could not express myself. I couldn't talk to people. I couldn't do any of those things. And if somebody did speak to me, it was traumatic. I mean, it didn't matter who it was. Could be a teacher, could be somebody at church, could be another kid, unless I knew them very well. And there were some people, a few people, not very many, who could actually come inside the bubble with me. And then I was perfectly okay. I had a friend, growing up in the city that, he was in the bubble with me. I was fine. I had a girlfriend when I was a teenager. She was in the bubble with me. We were okay. It's fine. When I was a teenager, 14, 15, I had a good friend, another guy that I hung around with, would go out and walk for hours and talk. He was in the bubble with me, and I can think of maybe a dozen people at the most throughout my life that I've been able to connect with very well, just like most people connect with other people all the time. And the thing is, people who are just normal, they don't get that. People who live in the hive mind, I call it, the neurotypical hive mind, they do not understand why we are the way we are because, they can't. Unless they've been taught, been trained, they don't see it because they can't see it. You got to show it to them. All right. So the things that showed up in my day as an autistic were routines, schedule, social anxiety, avoiding eye contact, which is an expression of something much broader. Focusing attention, number 5. Number 6, that flat effect. And number 7, just wanting to get home, be back to the normal. Okay, so how do we tie all this together? This is important. Well, we tie it together by realizing that autism is a lifetime neurological condition. It's not a disorder. Well, relative to what you think a disorder is. Anything can be a disorder based upon your definition of order. You could build a house in the middle of the woods and somebody say you tore down the trees and you made a mess. You built this nice, lovely house. Other people would say just the opposite. You took the trees, which were disorderly, and you made a nice, orderly house out of them. So order or disorder is kind of relative to what you're thinking, but autism, in my opinion, it's not a disorder. It's a condition. It's observable, it can be experienced, and it's congenital. You're born with it. I mean, you have autism before you were born. So when I was 7 years old, I was autistic. Now I'm in my 70s, I'm still autistic. There's never been a day in my life when I was not autistic and I didn't experience these things that I experienced on Saturday. I think I said it was Saturday a moment ago. If I said it was some other day, it was Saturday. So we have this broad range of conditions that define autism, but basically it's being challenged with social skills, repetitive behaviors, and orderliness. Repetitive behaviors, I think, and orderliness kind of go hand in hand. They're not the same thing, but they're tied. And one other thing, and to me this is important, if you get on the internet and you try to find the characteristics of autism, generally always with very few exceptions, what you find is addressing autism in developing children. You know, we're talking about preschoolers and maybe above that, but there's almost nothing about autism as adults. And the fact of the matter is I believe autism is neurological. It's part of your brain. It's the way you are. It's like the color of your eyes, your height, whatever. Just that's the way you're genetically predisposed. It's not going to go away. I mean, you can work with it a little bit. You can put on glasses or contact lenses to change the color of your eyes, but you really don't change them. So you can mask your autism, and sometimes that's good. Sometimes you go overboard. It depends on you. But emphasizing here that dealing with autism in adults is something that a lot of people just I'm talking about therapists, professionals. They just don't seem to be terribly interested in it. They're more interested in catching it and dealing with it before it becomes socially disabling or disabilitating. And it is because, we don't live in the hive mind. So they want to adjust children with autism to be able to cooperate to some degree with the neurotypical hive mind so they can have some measure of success in life. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as they don't see it as a disorder, but more of a language barrier, learning to speak the language of those who live in the hive mind. If you got something out of this video, you can join us by subscribing to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. If you will leave a comment in the comment section for your observation or to join a conversation or to start a conversation, whatever, you're welcome to say whatever you want to say within, reason. And if you share this on social media, that helps a lot. And we'll see y'all next time.